Hi, this is Steve Chandler from Property Development Institute. People always talk about inflation. Nowadays it's a big thing around the world. We also talk about interest rates and interest rates going up and where they're going, where they'll stop, and what does this mean for property development. And as a older person in the industry, as someone who's been around for over 40 years, I keep getting asked questions about this. So I thought, why not create a video and give you some of my thoughts? To give you an example, let me go back 40 years. 40 years ago, I bought my first home. And at the time that I bought my first home, interest rates on our home mortgage were 14.5%. And if you look at what interest rates are now and what they've been over the recent past, they've been very, very low, at least 10% lower than that. So now we're in an environment of rising interest rates, and the interest rates are rising because inflation is going rife, and we've been through a pandemic, and there's been lots of issues that have attached to that have created reasons for the inflation. So as a property developer, we sit here and we go, okay, what does this all mean? And one of the things I do say to people when I get asked, what's the best degree I could do to be a property developer, I generally always say an economics degree, because we seem to have to know what's happening in the big picture, because that's what developers are. We're big picture people. We look at what's happening. We try and forecast based on information that we gather. We forecast into the future and what we see occurring. Of course, we have risk margins and et cetera, and that's why I've got the big profit margin there on our projects to make sure that if something doesn't happen exactly as we projected, that we're covered. So let's look at inflation. We've got, let's say, construction prices going up. That's inflation. Food prices, fuel, all sorts of things have been going up. Now, as they go up, obviously it's going to affect our economy and make other things more expensive. So in construction costs go up. Wages will need to go up as well. So you're going to have wage rises trying to keep pace with inflation. All those things, there's nothing unusual about that. That's been happening for the 4 decades that I've been in the industry. So we as developers have to contemplate that within our projections for our feasibility, if you like, for our projects. So inflation is not something that we necessarily have to be scared of. We do have to provision for it, and we have an understanding within ourselves what we should do. And this is why property development is about the individual. Listening to other people, talking to other people, what they're doing and how they're doing is all very, very important. But ultimately, you're the one who's going to make the decision about your project. You need to be the one who understands what's going on, and you need to be the one that makes that decision about what number goes in your feasibility for every single component of it. You're it. As the property developer, you have the ultimate responsibility for those numbers. And it's a big responsibility, because if it doesn't go well, the numbers you put in are the reason why it hasn't gone well. So your projections might have been wrong. Inflation might have been a lot more than what you thought it was going to be. You might even have prices coming down that you didn't expect. Well, that's lucky for you, because it's going to increase your profit. But what are we heading into in the next few years is definitely some increases in pricing. So with inflation going up, increasing some of our costs, with interest rates going up, which also increases our costs, what does that mean? Well, a lot of people won't be buying houses. In Australia, where I'm based, over the last couple of years, throughout the pandemic, prices have just been going berserk. Now, with interest rates going up, the demand for housing, whilst money was free, in inverted commas, during the pandemic, while the governments tried to keep the economies going, people were buying and buying and buying. Now that things have settled back down and we've got the interest rates, inflation catching up from what was done over the pandemic period, what we now have is that interest rates have to go up. That means the demand for housing is likely to drop. So with housing prices coming down, that's a site cost for us. So from that perspective, makes our feasibilities look better than they did previously. And as less people want to buy houses, it means more people are going to want to buy more cost-effective properties, such as apartments or townhouses. So I look at it and I'm thinking, well, if house prices are so high that people don't want to buy them now because they think interest rates are going to go up and their mortgage repayments will become more than what they can sustain, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to look to the apartment townhouse market. So to me, if we're a developer of medium density stock, being townhouses, apartments, then I think we're in for an actual good time. But you are the one who has to make a decision about your project. Me, right now, I'm committed into that apartment projects world. I believe that with house prices coming off, it means our sites are going to be more viable. Construction prices have been going up. I think that construction prices will probably still go up for quite some time until the global logistics settle down and the effects of people being off work due to getting sick. That will settle down over a period of time. So we need to allow for something along those lines, but our site costs are going to be cheaper. Our building costs will be a little bit more expensive, but I certainly look at the apartment market where I play. I believe our prices are actually going to increase for our stock. Now, on top of that, that's just some very simplistic things. Where I am in Australia, we rely on immigration for population growth. Wherever you are, whether you're not in Australia, et cetera, have a look at your immigration, your population growth numbers. Where does your growth come from? What's the demand? Why is there demand for property? From our perspective here, my view in Australia is now that we've reopened the borders and immigration has started and we've got international students coming back into Australia, demand for property, particularly the apartment market, is going to go even higher. So wherever you are, have a look at your market, look at the growth in your population, see if that is an underlying demand factor. If it's not, then have a look at why someone would want a product in a particular area. Remember, in all of this, the first and foremost thing that we do as a property developer is identify a need in the market. We must identify a need in the market, and from that need, we then look at whether or not a development will be viable. And if it's viable, then we'll start the process of trying to acquire a site and deliver a project. So I hope that's been helpful. Lots of people talking about inflation, etc. More than happy to have a chat. If you'd like, just contact us via our webpage. Details on the following slide. Thanks very much for watching.